So, you've probably set, well, like a dozen goals this year.
Oh, easily. And the statistics say you'll abandon, probably 90% of them by next Tuesday.
Right. Exactly. So today, we're looking at this huge stack of sources that explains exactly why your brain is, well, it's basically designed to sabotage your best intentions.
Yeah, and why you can never simply just think your way into a new personality.
Welcome to this deep dive.
Mm.
Today, we are looking directly at you, the listener. Especially if you spend your days feeling overwhelmed, scattered, or just stuck in this state of constant reaction.
That state of constant reaction, the sources actually call that the autopilot trap.
The autopilot trap.
Right.
Right, because our mission today is to explore the architecture of personal alignment.
Exactly.
We're going to look at the literal mechanics of why changing your life requires entirely abandoning the way we've all been taught to do it.
Yeah, because most people live in a condition where their daily existence just isn't an expression of their internal intent at all.
Not even a little bit.
No. Instead, it is an architectural expression of external pressures. Like you are constantly responding to immediate demands.
Like, this is emergencies.
Yes, or just the legacy of your own outdated habits. And it leaves you operating under this massive, just crushing cognitive load.
Which creates a life that feels incredibly fragile. Like you aren't actually building anything.
I'm just dodging wrecking balls all day.
Dodging wrecking balls, exactly. And I think when people feel that fragmentation, they start waiting for this magical state of alignment to save them.
Oh, for sure. They treat alignment like a fleeting emotional state.
Or some mystical flow that will just descend upon them if they, I don't know, drink enough green juice or curate the perfect morning routine.
Right, which is just the great myth of modern productivity.
Right.
Alignment is not a feeling. You do not wait for it. Alignment is a deliberate decision architecture.
Okay, let's unpack this, because if you want to move out of that unconscious basement of reaction and into the clarity of intentional living, you have to actively build that structure.
You do. And the information we are synthesizing today offers a functional sequence for that, the personal alignment blueprint.
Which is designed to transform vague insights into very, very precise execution.
Exactly.
But okay, knowing we need to build a new structure is where most people hit a wall, right? Because our attempts at personal transformation usually collapse within, what, a few weeks?
If we're lucky, yeah. A few weeks.
Right. So if we look at the foundation of how people try to change, we start with the entirely wrong building block.
We really do. The fundamental error we make, and the research points to this time and time again, is trying to act our way into a new identity.
Trying to force the behavior first.
Exactly. We assume that if we just start doing the things a highly effective person does, we will magically become that person.
But the sources say most choices we make on autopilot are coming from a survival self.
Yes, the survival self. It is the version of you that operates based on, well, your current mood, your immediate fears, or just patterns you develop to navigate past trauma.
But wait, aren't we always taught to fake it till you make it?
Oh, constantly.
Like, that's the whole culture. We're told that if you just force the habit, go to the gym, make the cold calls, write the pages, your brain eventually catches up. So is this suggesting that entire philosophy is completely flawed?
It is structurally flawed, yes, because of the sequence.
How so?
Well, think about it. If your internal state is terrified of rejection, but you force yourself to make 20 sales calls, your nervous system is in a state of high alert.
Oh, wow. Right.
You are fighting immense cognitive dissonance. You might muscle through it for a day, but you cannot build a high-performance life on a foundation of reactive, fear-based habits.
So it's like stress testing a structure that hasn't even been built yet.
Exactly.
You're putting a massive load of weight on empty air and then wondering why your willpower completely collapses by 2 in the afternoon.
Right. The core principle here from the blueprint is that identity precedes behavior.
Identity precedes behavior.
Yes. And then behavior simply reinforces the identity you have already chosen.
So how do we actually do that?
You have to consciously step into the grounded self, what the sources sometimes call the becoming self, before you take a single step.
Right, so you're not trying to fundamentally change your core essence.
No, not at all. What's fascinating here is that you aren't trying to change who you are. You are simply choosing an operating system for the day.
Like flipping a switch.
Exactly. You have to ask yourself, who is leading right now? Is it the stressed out survivor who wants to hide from the inbox?
Or is it the grounded architect who can handle conflict?
Exactly. And you literally set the filter before the data hits you. You tell yourself, today I am operating as the confident communicator.
Or, today I am leading as the calm strategist.
Yes. It frames how you will respond and decide before the world actually demands anything of you.
Which establishes the first principle of your personal engineering.
Right. Without that conscious activation, you just default to the survival self.
But activating that new identity is really only the entry point, right? Like once you have chosen your operating system, you have to know where to point it.
Yes, which introduces a massive friction point, honestly. The brain's resistance to change.
Because we usually try to overcome that friction by setting goals.
We do, but the sources suggest shifting our focus from setting goals to defining a direction.
Which completely changes the psychological landscape.
It does. In human engineering, a direction and a goal are fundamentally different mechanisms.
Because a goal is binary, right?
Exactly. We all know the anxiety of a binary goal. You hit the number or you fail. And that pass-fail metric, it triggers the survival self.
Because failure feels like a literal threat to the nervous system.
Right. Direction, however, is an inner orientation. It acts as a leadership control panel for the brain.
Let's step away from the construction metaphor for a second and look at this like navigation.
Okay, I like that.
A goal is a very specific GPS coordinate. If the road to that coordinate is blocked, your brain panics, right? Constantly tries to reroute, causing massive stress.
Oh, for sure.
But a direction is just a compass heading. If your direction is head north and a road is blocked, you don't panic. You just find another path that still moves you generally north.
That navigation analogy perfectly illustrates the principle of design thinking at play here.
Oh, design thinking.
Right.
Yeah, design thinking requires you to establish the problem space before you start throwing out solutions.
Which makes sense.
Right.
Right.
When you define a direction for your day, your brain actually begins to optimize its neurological pathways for that trajectory.
It filters out the noise of scattered effort.
Exactly. A goal can stall you out if you don't know the exact right step to take next. But a direction provides a continuous feedback loop.
Like, if my orientation for the day is moving toward clarity, I don't necessarily need to achieve absolute perfection, right?
Not at all, just clarity.
And if it's moving toward peace, I know my default response shouldn't be people-pleasing. Because people-pleasing ultimately destroys your peace.
Exactly. Or, if my orientation is moving toward action, I can easily identify when I am slipping into avoidance.
Yes.
If someone sends me like a passive-aggressive email, my grounded self doesn't need a 10-step plan to handle it. The orientation itself tells me how to respond.
Because you are choosing the emotional field you want to create. And once that direction is set, you optimize the path of least resistance for your brain.
Ensuring that whatever you do next reinforces that grounded self.
Right. But, knowing your orientation actually creates a new problem.
Execution.
Execution.
Yeah.
You cannot just sit in a room and meditate your way into a new reality.
Action is non-negotiable.
Yeah.
Which brings us to a psychological framework from the sources that really exposes the machinery of our own procrastination.
Oh, the later is a lie concept?
Yes, the idea that later is a lie.
It's so true, though. Delay is rarely about time management. It is almost always a defense mechanism used to protect your current identity.
We create this comforting illusion that if we just wait, we will magically acquire future confidence.
Or future motivation. You tell yourself, oh, I will have that difficult conversation tomorrow when I feel more ready.
Because the brain prefers familiar misery over unfamiliar success.
Exactly. Readiness is a total illusion.
The counter-truth of this action-based reality is that traits like confidence and clarity, they cannot be acquired by waiting.
No, they're exclusively created through action in the present moment. You literally cannot think your way into a state of readiness.
Alignment only becomes a visible reality when it is executed.
Right. If you stay in avoidance, you are just reinforcing the old reactive identity.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. The actions required to build this new identity, they do not need to be massive cinematic moments.
Oh, not at all. You don't need a ribbon-cutting ceremony for your new life.
Right. They just need to be honest steps. Small actions act as the literal bricks of your new identity.
And they provide the proof your nervous system needs. Because your brain is incredibly skeptical of your sudden desire to be a highly effective person.
It's like, yeah, right. We'll see about that.
Exactly. It needs to see evidence. And that evidence bridges the gap between what you intellectually know you should do and what your body is actually doing.
We're trying to reduce cognitive dissonance.
Yes. When you take a small, aligned action, you are showing your nervous system that it is safe to operate in this new way.
And the examples from the text are wonderfully mundane, like drinking a glass of water.
It's a profound example, really.
It is. When you stop to take a slow drink of water, you are literally forcing your parasympathetic nervous system to engage.
Because mammals do not stop to hydrate when they are running from a predator.
Exactly. So by drinking the water, you are chemically signaling safety to your brain, which reinforces the identity of someone who practices self-care.
Or apologizing to a colleague to restore relational integrity. That works the same way.
Or just cleaning your immediate workspace so it reflects internal order.
Or simply writing the very first sentence of a project you have been avoiding.
Just one sentence.
Just one. Every single one of those small actions strengthens the discipline required for long-term growth.
You are actively generating confidence in the present moment.
Right. But of course, the moment you take that first step, the old self inevitably tries to reassert control.
Oh, always. As soon as you establish a new habit, a familiar loop of self-sabotage kicks in.
Which is why, to build something new, we have to know exactly what is currently occupying the site.
Pattern awareness.
Yes. Most personal growth efforts collapse right here because they fail to account for these familiar loops.
The old architecture.
Exactly. These are the subconscious habits of the survival self that seek to undermine your new architecture.
It is your brain trying to pull you back to what is known and predictable.
Even if what is known is totally stressful and inefficient.
Over-preparing is a classic example of this, right?
Oh, a huge one.
You spent 3 hours researching a topic for an email that should have taken 5 minutes to write.
Because it feels like productive work. But it's actually a state of paralysis hiding as diligence.
Or numbing out by scrolling on our phones when we feel a spike of anxiety.
Or seeking external validation from 3 different coworkers before making a completely trivial choice.
Over-explaining your boundaries is another familiar loop mentioned.
Yes. And these loops are incredibly powerful because they operate invisibly. They are the decayed foundations of your past.
So how do we neutralize them?
Well, the sources say you have to use a diagnostic interruption. You must name the misaligned action as it is happening.
So if I catch myself staring at my phone when I should be working on a presentation, I have to consciously say to myself, I am numbing with distraction right now.
Exactly. Psychologists actually call this affect labeling.
Affect labeling.
Right. By naming the emotion or the behavior, you literally shift the processing in your brain from the emotional center, the amygdala, to the prefrontal cortex.
Where logical decision-making happens.
Yes. You move the behavior from the unconscious basement to the conscious drafting table.
I love that. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, naming a pattern is not an invitation to shame.
No, not at all. You are not berating yourself for scrolling. You are treating your self-sabotage as an objective data point.
You strip the behavior of its invisible influence. By recognizing the familiar loop before it takes the lead, you interrupt the pattern before it dictates the outcome of your entire afternoon.
Because identifying what not to do is just as critical as identifying what to do.
Okay, so we have your activated identity, your direction, your small actions, and your pattern awareness.
Right.
But life is still going to throw turbulence at you,
Yes.
right? An unexpected crisis at work, a financial stressor, a health issue.
Of course.
The question becomes, how does this newly built identity survive environmental pressure without instantly collapsing back into the reactive survival self?
Well, even the most robust systems require external support to remain stable during a storm.
Which brings us to accountability anchors.
Yes. An anchor answers one core question. What will help me stay connected to my choice?
Because your internal choice requires external support to bridge the gap between conscious intent and subconscious habit.
Exactly. And there are highly practical ways to set these up. Time and rhythm anchors, for example, are incredibly effective for bypassing overwhelm.
Like setting a timer.
Yeah. You set a simple 10-minute timer with the grounding phrase, I only need to begin.
I only need to begin. I like that.
It trips the brain into starting because 10 minutes feels safe and non-threatening.
They're also visual anchors, right?
Visual anchors are vital. A sticky note on your monitor that simply asks, who is leading right now?
Or a reminder on your phone that prompts you to pause and physically realign at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Exactly. And then there are social anchors. They help distribute the weight.
Like a quick text check-in with a peer who knows what you're working toward.
Or establishing a non-negotiable boundary, like turning off notifications after 6 in the evening.
That acts as a literal load-bearing wall to protect your cognitive energy.
Yes, the goal is not to overcomplicate the system. The anchor just needs to be an effective tether.
Right.
But there is one category of anchoring we really have to explore deeply because it is universally the most overlooked layer of transformation.
Somatic sealing.
Somatic sealing, the idea that the body is the hardware upon which the identity software runs.
We spend so much time talking about cognitive shifts,
Yeah.
changing your mindset, optimizing your brain pathways.
But identity is not merely a cognitive concept. It is held somatically,
Right.
within the physical tissues and the nervous system.
This raises an important question then. If you choose to activate the identity of, say, the courageous leader in your mind, but your physical posture is in a state of collapse.
Right, like your shoulders are slumped forward, protecting your chest.
Exactly. Your breath is shallow, you are avoiding eye contact,
The alignment completely fails.
because your body is sending danger signals to your brain through the vagus nerve.
Yes. If your body does not feel safe, your brain will inevitably default back to the survival self, no matter how many positive affirmations you repeat in the mirror.
So you have to literally inhabit the physical shape of the future identity.
It's not just thinking differently, it's training the new habit from the inside out.
And the embodiment practices for this are micro habits.
Very micro. It is consciously softening your jaw or unclenching your brow when reading a stressful email.
Or holding a steady, grounded gaze during a difficult conversation instead of, avoiding your eyes.
Shifting your posture to stand with a neutral, open spine.
And regulating your respiratory rate. Slowing your breathing down regulates the stress response and physically locks in the new identity.
So it becomes recognizable and natural to your nervous system.
You are making the mental blueprint a lived physical reality.
Exactly. And this is an iterative process. It is a daily practice of maintenance.
Let's summarize the flow of that daily practice for you, the listener, because it is a lot, but it's a clear sequence.
It is.
First, you choose your identity. Who are you activating right now before the stress hits?
Second, you define your direction. What is your inner orientation? Are you moving toward clarity or peace or action?
Third, you execute an aligned action. What is one small, honest step you can take right now to prove this identity to your nervous system?
Fourth, you practice pattern awareness. What familiar loop of self-sabotage do you need to name and neutralize?
Fifth, you establish an anchor. What external support will keep you connected to this choice?
And finally, embodiment. How are you physically sealing this into your posture and breath?
You are turning insight into action, action into identity, and identity into embodied change.
Which is incredibly powerful.
So what does this all mean? It means you are the architect and the navigator of your own life. You are not a prisoner of your legacy patterns or your past reflexes.
You don't have to wait for motivation to magically appear.
You have the actual mechanics to design your own decision architecture today.
And as you think about putting this system into practice, we want to leave you with one final thought to mull over.
We established that your daily existence is an architectural expression of your minute-by-minute choices.
Right. So take a look around your life right now, at your routines, the baseline level of stress in your body, the boundaries in your relationships.
Look closely at the environment you are currently standing in.
What exactly are you currently building by default?